Alright, we've got these two planes converging on a single point. One of them's 600 miles away, the other one's 800 miles away from that point. So we want to find the distance they are apart right now. So replace, so 600 and 800 are the legs of the right triangle. So 600 squared, 360,000. 800 squared, 640,000. Add those together, you get 1,000,000. To get rid of squared, we'll square root. Only a positive answer makes sense for a distance. And so we get 1,000. And that's miles. Oh, and I just use C for that. Same setup here, except for 20 minutes have passed. So we got to figure out how much closer are they to that convergent point, and then we'll figure out the distance from there. So distance equals rate times time. 20 minutes, that's the same as 1/3 of an hour. 20, there's 60 minutes in an hour, so 20/60ths of an hour is the same as 1/3 of an hour. That'll make our calculations just a little bit easier. So for the first plane, they're traveling at 450 miles per hour, so that's our rate. Times 1/3 of an hour. Multiply those together and you get 150. So this plane has traveled 150 miles in those 20 minutes. So now that plane is, instead of being 600 miles away, it's only 450 miles away. Do the same thing for this next part. The second plane is traveling at 600 miles per hour. So distance equals rate times time. Distance equals 600 times 1/3. And so we get 200. So this one's traveled 200 miles, so 800 minus 200. So now that plane's 600 miles away from that point of convergence. And so we're finding the hypotenuse again. So c squared equals a squared plus b squared. So square those, add them together, and then square root. Only a positive answer makes sense here. And so we get 750. So now they're only 750 miles apart. On the last one we saw 1,000 miles apart. Alright, here we've got 2 of the 3 sides in a right triangle. So we can find AC. This is one of our legs, so I'll use A for that. Hypotenuse is 26. And then one of our legs is 10. So we'll square those. 26 squared gives us 676. 10 squared is 100. Subtract 100 from each side, we get 576. And then to get rid of squared, we'll square root. Only a positive answer makes sense for a side length. And so we get 24 for that side length. So now we have another right triangle. This time, the one that's 24 centimeters is the hypotenuse. So our 2 legs are 20 and what I've just labeled as x. 24 squared, 576. 20 squared is 400. We'll subtract 400 from each side. So we get 176 equals x squared. Square root both sides. If you want, you can write it as 16 times 11, which would be 4 root 11 for your exact answer. And of course that's centimeters. And then we can go to our calculator for a decimal approximation and get about 13.3 centimeters. And of course that's the distance from D to C, approximately equal to. Alright, here we've got a ladder. It's 8 feet above the ground, and then it's 6 feet from the pole. So we have this right triangle. We're missing the hypotenuse, the side across from the right angle. Square those, we get 36 plus 64, which is 100. And then to get rid of squared, we'll square root. So that tells us the length of the ladder, which we'll use over here. And then when we add these two distances together, we get 7.5 for this other right triangle. Got 2 of the 3 sides in a right triangle, so we'll use the Pythagorean Theorem. Subtract 56.25 from each side. So we have 43.75 equal to x squared. To get rid of squared, we'll square root. Only a positive answer makes sense here. So we get approximately 6.6 feet. All right. We're told that these lines are parallel, so that means corresponding angles are congruent. And then we have the reflexive property for angle A. It's in both triangles. So by angle, the triangles are similar. Going to look at the big triangle first. We've got the side length of 12, 16, and we don't know the hypotenuse. So I'm going to find this value. So Pythagorean Theorem, the one we're looking for right now, which I'll call x, is the hypotenuse. So x squared equals 10 squared plus 12 squared. 12 squared plus 16 squared. Big triangle, big right triangle. So we get 144 plus 256, which comes out to be 400. To get rid of squared, we'll square root. Only a positive answer makes sense here, so we get x equal to 20. So for the big triangle, the hypotenuse is 20. So we can say, now let's set up a proportion. 10 is to 12 as the small hypotenuse, which we don't know, I'll call y. 10 is to 12 as y is to 20. We can cross multiply, we get 200 equals 12y, and then divide by 12. So we get about exactly 16 2/3 or you could say 16.6 repeating. Alright, on this one we'll use the Pythagorean Theorem. So to find that c, we'll do 3 squared plus 4 squared. And so we get 9 and 16, that's 25. Square root both sides. Only a positive answer makes sense here. So we have 5 there. Now we've got 2 of the 3 in a right triangle here, so I guess I'll call that side x. So I have x squared equal to 5 squared plus 12 squared. So that's 25 plus 144, that's 169. And then to get rid of squared, we'll square root. Only a positive answer makes sense here. So we'll have 13 for that side length. Now we can do the Pythagorean Theorem again. This time we know the hypotenuse. Oh, I shouldn't have used x, I guess, but sorry about that. So 85 is our hypotenuse, and then got one of the legs labeled as x, the other one is 13. Subtract 169 from each side, we get 7,056. To get rid of squared, we'll square root. And so we get 84 for the value of x. Again, I shouldn't have used x before, except for that last part. Alright, here we've got 3 side lengths. We're trying to figure out what type of a triangle. We'll classify it based on the angles, acute, right, or obtuse. So we'll compare the biggest one is your hypotenuse. 13 squared is 169. 5 squared is 25. 12 squared is 144. Add them together, you get 169. So since these are equal, then that means it's a right triangle. If c squared were less than a squared plus b squared, then it would be acute. If c squared were greater than a squared plus b squared, it would be obtuse. Alright, here we have 2 or 3 sides in a right triangle, so we'll use the Pythagorean Theorem. The side that we're missing is the hypotenuse. So we'll add those together. To get rid of squared, we'll square root. Only a positive answer makes sense here. 4 is your biggest perfect square factor here, so 4 times 41 is 164. And so we get 2 square root 41 for the exact answer, and we can also go to our calculator for a decimal approximation. And so the decimal approximation is about 12.8.